And this issue of transparency is directly relevant to a third aspect of American leadership. And that is our effort to strengthen and enforce international order. After World War II, America had the wisdom to shape institutions to keep the peace and support human progress from NATO and the United Nations, to the World Bank and IMF. These institutions are not perfect, but they have been a force multiplier. They reduce the need for unilateral American action and increase restraint among other nations. Now, just as the world has changed, this architecture must change as well. At the height of the Cold War, President Kennedy spoke about the need for a peace based upon a gradual evolution in human institutions. And evolving these international institutions to meet the demands of today must be a critical part of American leadership. Now, there are a lot of folks, a lot of skeptics, who often downplay the effectiveness of multilateral action. For them, working through international institutions like the UN or respecting international law is a sign of weakness. I think they're wrong. Let me offer just two examples why. In Ukraine, Russia's recent actions recall the days when Soviet tanks rolled into Eastern Europe. This weekend, Ukrainians voted by the millions. Yesterday, I spoke to their next president. We don't know how the situation will play out and there will remain grave challenges ahead. But standing with our allies on behalf of international order, working with international institutions. has given a chance for the Ukrainian people to choose their future without us firing a shot. Similarly, despite frequent warnings from the United States and Israel and others, the Iranian nuclear program steadily advanced for years. But at the beginning of my presidency, we built a coalition that imposed sanctions on the Iranian economy. While extending the hand of diplomacy to the Iranian government. And now we have an opportunity to resolve our differences peacefully. The odds of success are still long, and we reserve all options to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. But for the first time in a decade, we have a very real chance of achieving a breakthrough agreement. One that is more effective and durable than what we could have achieved through the use of force. And throughout these negotiations, it has been our willingness to work through multilateral channels that kept the world on our side. The point is, this is American leadership. This is American strength. In each case, we built coalitions to respond to a specific challenge. Now we need to do more to strengthen the institutions that can anticipate and prevent problems from spreading. For example, NATO is the strongest alliance the world has ever known. But we're now working with NATO allies to meet new missions. Both within Europe, where our Eastern allies must be reassured, but also beyond Europe's borders, where our NATO allies must pull. Their weight to counter terrorism and respond to failed states and train a network of partners. Likewise, the U. N provides a platform to keep the peace in states torn apart by conflict. Now we need to make sure that those nations who provide peacekeepers have the training and equipment to actually keep the peace. So that we can prevent the type of killing we've seen in Congo and Sudan. We are going to deepen our investment in countries that support these peacekeeping missions. Because having other nations maintain order in their own neighborhoods lessens the need for us to put our own troops in harm's way. It's a smart investment. It's the right way to lead. Keep in mind, not all international norms relate directly to armed conflict. We have a serious problem with cyber attacks. Which is why we're working to shape and enforce rules of the road to secure our networks and our citizens. In the Asia-Pacific, we're supporting Southeast Asian nations as they negotiate. A code of conduct with China on maritime disputes in the South China Sea. And we're working to resolve these disputes through international law. That spirit of cooperation needs to energize the global effort to combat climate change creeping. National security crisis that will help shape your time in uniform. As we are called on to respond to refugee flows and natural disasters and conflicts over water and food. Which is why next year I intend to make sure America is out front in putting together a global framework to preserve our planet. You see, American influence is always stronger when we lead by example. We can't exempt ourselves from the rules that apply to everybody else. We can't call on others to make commitments to combat climate change. If a whole lot of our political leaders deny that it's taking place, We can't try to resolve problems in the South China Sea when we have refused to make sure that the law of the Sea Convention is ratified by our United States Senate. Despite the fact that our top military leaders say the treaty advances our national security. That's not leadership, that's retreat. That's not strength, that's weakness. It would be utterly foreign to leaders like Roosevelt and Truman, Eisenhower, and Kennedy. I believe in American exceptionalism with every fiber of my being. But what makes us exceptional is not our ability to flout international norms and the rule of law. It is our willingness to affirm them through our actions. And that's why I will continue to push to close Gitmo, because American values and legal traditions do not permit the indefinite detention of people beyond our borders. Which brings me to the fourth and final element of American leadership. Our willingness to act on behalf of human dignity. America's support for democracy and human rights goes beyond idealism. It is a matter of national security. Democracies are our closest friends and are far less likely to go to war. Economies based on free and open markets perform better and become markets for our goods. Respect for human rights is an antidote to instability and the grievances that fuel violence and terror. A new century has brought no end to tyranny. In capitals around the globe, including, unfortunately, some of America's partners, there has been a crackdown on civil society. The cancer of corruption has enriched too many governments and their cronies. and enraged citizens from remote villages to iconic squares. And watching these trends, or the violent upheavals in parts of the Arab world, it's easy to be cynical. But remember that because of America's efforts, because of American diplomacy and foreign assistance as well as the sacrifices of our military, more people live under elected governments today than at any time in human history. Technology is empowering civil society in ways that no iron fist can control. New breakthroughs are lifting hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. And even the upheaval of the Arab world reflects the rejection of an authoritarian order that was anything but stable. And now offers the long-term prospect of more responsive and effective governance. In countries like Egypt, we acknowledge that our relationship is anchored in security interests. From peace treaties with Israel, to shared efforts against violent extremism. So we have not cut off cooperation with the new government. But we can and will persistently press for reforms that the Egyptian people have demanded. And meanwhile, look at a country like Burma. Which only a few years ago was an intractable dictatorship and hostile to the United States' 40 million people. Thanks to the enormous courage of the people in that country, and because we took the diplomatic initiative. American leadership, we have seen political reforms opening a once closed society. A movement by Burmese leadership away from partnership with North Korea in favor of engagement with America and our allies. We're now supporting reform and badly needed national reconciliation through assistance and investment. through coaxing and, at times, public criticism. And progress there could be reversed. But if Burma succeeds, we will have gained a new partner without having fired a shot. American leadership. In each of these cases, we should not expect change to happen overnight. That's why we form alliances not just with governments, but also with ordinary people. For unlike other nations, America is not afraid of individual empowerment. We are strengthened by it. We're strengthened by civil society. We're strengthened by a free press. We're strengthened by striving entrepreneurs and small businesses. We're strengthened by educational exchange and opportunity for all people. And women and girls. That's who we are. That's what we represent. I saw that through a trip to Africa last year, where American assistance has made possible. The prospect of an AIDS-free generation, while helping Africans care themselves for their sick. We're helping farmers get their products to market, to feed populations once endangered by famine. We aim to double access to electricity in sub-Saharan Africa. So people are connected to the promise of the global economy. And all this creates new partners and shrinks the space for terrorism and conflict. Now, tragically, no American security operation can eradicate the threat posed. By an extremist group like Boko Haram, the group that kidnapped those girls. And that's why we have to focus not just on rescuing those girls right away. but also on supporting Nigerian efforts to educate its youth. This should be one of the hard-earned lessons of Iraq and Afghanistan. Where our military became the strongest advocate for diplomacy and development. They understood that foreign assistance is not an afterthought, something nice to do apart from our national defense. Apart from our national security. It is part of what makes us strong.